Hey everybody, welcome to Wing Talk. I'm your host, Bald Smiley Face Guy. Today we got a great show. We have a special guest, the artist formerly known as Henrik is here with us today. We're talking lots about INAV today, and it's going to be pure Farfignugan. That's what I'm going to say about this show today. It's going to be awesome. So let's get right to it. Mark Hoffman, what's going on with you, babes?
Yeah, as always, looking forward to a funny show with you.
You're muted, Mark.
I'm just muted in Skype. The stream can hear me, so all good. No, everything's good. Looking forward to a great show again, and let's have some fun.
Awesome, fantastic. Darren Lines, what's going on with you?
Oh, yeah, it's all good with me. I'm just laughing at all this because it's been hilarious so far.
So yeah, you were like yeah, I see some of your personal tweets. You're talking about nice cars driving down your street. And
oh no, I was up in London doing some work.
Oh, okay.
It was in an area, basically a road away from Oxford Street, so it's where all the rich people live. And every 5 minutes you get Lamborghinis, Ferraris driving past. And then, yeah, Bugatti Chiron went past. Nice couple of million quid's worth of car.
Yeah.
Reminds me of my time when I lived in Switzerland. There was 50% of the cars were Ferrari,
Mark,
Porsche, and whatever.
Mark.
Yeah.
For some reason, Skype seems to mute itself sometimes. This chat is, the live stream is going, but not Skype for some reason. Okay, all good.
Okay. You were saying about your time in Switzerland?
Yeah, so when I lived in Switzerland for a few years, that was pretty normal there. 50% of the cars were Porsche, Mustang, Ford Mustang, Ferrari, and whatever expensive cars available.
Man, if you have that kind of money, you can afford a mini track. That's what I'm talking about.
Not yet.
That's what matters.
So Darren, you live in Pompeii, I guess, right? Is that what they call your place?
No, the locals call it Pompey.
Pompey. Okay.
I prefer Portsmouth.
Don't get it wrong. I live in Southsea, okay? Not Portsmouth here.
Look who it is. Joining us is Luke. Hey, Luke, what's going on with you, man?
Yeah, everything's good here in Southsea, not Portsmouth. Just got to get that correct.
Oh, you're not in Portsmouth anymore?
No, you're not in Portsmouth, Southsea. Very different.
Just for your benefit, Steve, and everyone else who doesn't live locally, it's basically the same city. It's just a slightly posher area where they only urinate in the streets at weekends.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess
so you can afford a mini track then, right?
At night on my car.
In my opinion, that must be a lie, because on every show, Luke seems to live deeper and deeper in the woods.
He's kind of looking like a woodsman these days.
Yeah.
Kind of like a lumberjack. We get you flannel next time for the next show, okay?
Oh, I have to wear a flannel shirt. Yeah, okay.
That's right. So, yeah, speaking of good old UK, there's a song that, probably before your time, Luke, it goes like this. Henrik the Eighth I am, Henrik the Eighth I am. I got married to a widow next door, and she got married 7 times before, and everyone was a Henrik. Henrik wouldn't take a Willie or a Sam. No, sir, I'm her 8th old man. I'm Henrik. Henrik the Eighth I am. So, speaking of Henrik, ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from Germany is Henrik. Henrik, say hello.
Hi, Steve. Hi, everybody. Steve, you could make a living on that.
So we're going to get into you and find out all about you, because you're a fascinating dude with always has a lot to say, always has an opinion. If you want to watch him boil over, all you have to do is say, you know, I just built myself a brand new plane. I put plastic servos in, so the cheapest things I could find.
Okay, you got me.
Yeah. So Henrik, tell us, what part of Germany are you living in, first of all?
Near Hamburg. It's in the north of Germany.
North of Germany. So you're nowhere near Mark Hoffman then, right?
Yeah, it's about a 2 to 3 hours ride down to Mark. About that.
But we will handle that somewhere in the summer, I think. If we are allowed to.
Definitely. It's on the list.
Okay.
I'm actually living right next to Nikolai. It's 15 miles or so.
Nikolai
Bockholt, the one who was in the show in February.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So fantastic. Have you gone flying with him?
Not yet. But we ordered a nano drug together. He talked me into it.
Okay. Yeah. We're going to be talking about that.
I bet you needed lots of convincing for that, didn't you?
What? Sorry?
I bet you needed lots of convincing for that.
Totally. He asked if somebody with me, and I couldn't resist, you know.
Beautiful plane. All right, so you have some kind of, I know you're in sales, but you have an engineering background?
Not really. More of a military background. I was in the military for a few years, and no, not that really. A few years later, and I got into technical sales after all. So I have a business background, but not an engineering background. But I sold big toys. Yeah.
Big toys?
Yeah, big toys, like crane attachments for complicated and heavy stuff.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. That's now. So when did you start flying RC?
That's quite a while. I started with a little Uhu from Graupner. This is the small Uhu. It's mainly a box of balsa, and then you build this small glider out of it. And I was like 10 years old, 8 to 10 years old, and I wanted something that flies, and I got it for Christmas, and a few months later I stood on a grassy field with this thing in my hands, and yeah, from there the love started. It's so about 30 years ago.
Okay, so the Graupner is like it's a high-end. Well, for us, it's a high-end German company. It makes really quality parts. Yeah. If you really want to get really great folding props, Graupner makes them along with the spinners. And so,
sadly, they are out of business right now. They were sold a few years ago and were a subsidiary of HOT, the HOTT, the radio maker.
Okay.
And they got the main importer for HOT in Europe. And last year or so, or 2 years ago, they went completely out of business and now are just a trademark of Lindinger in Austria, together with Robbe, the other big German RC manufacturer.
Hey, as long as we're speaking, you mentioned Uhu. It's probably spelled differently. The one that reminds me of it's UHU, Uhu Por.
Yeah, actually. Just a second.
Yeah. He probably has his plane here. So as long as we're waiting, let's look at Luke's bedroom. Luke, say something.
Are we doing the annual, looking at Luke's bedroom tour?
Well, yeah, there's like a big plane off to the side there.
So
you're right.
Yeah, this morning I was fixing these two planes. Well, I swapped the motor from that one into this one, and then about to put a new motor on that one. But you probably see 3D printing there, new motor mount for that. And I've been out all day and I only just got back in time for the podcast, so
fantastic.
Haven't played anything.
So this is great. So, Henrik, you're about to show me something here.
Yeah, it's my little treasure here. It's actually a model you build with children, and it's just a box of wood. And just before Graupner went out of business, I managed to grab one of the last of these, and I hope I'll get my daughter building it with me once she's old enough.
Old is she?
So this is a little treasure. all the flying started with this one, and maybe she'll like it too.
So that's Yoo-hoo. So Yoo-hoo Pour, that's a glue we can buy in the United States. We have to buy it from people who sell it outside the United States and ship it here. So
maybe, yeah. It was a collaboration between Graupner and Yoo-hoo. Yoo-hoo is a glue, yeah. And it was a collaboration, and actually they tried to sell their
right. Yoo-hoo. That stuff is amazing. That's the best contact cement there is, and we can get it only if you buy it outside the United States and ship it into the United States. They don't stock it here locally.
Yeah, that's our problem when we want to buy goop.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you want a mini drug or a drug or some kind of drugs, and you watch the building tutorials from Chris Click, you always have goop to glue the spars inside and everything else. And
they sell it at the hardware stores here. It's just like in Walmart and every place you go, they sell goop here. So or something similar to it. It's E6000. So
yeah, if you want to do us a favor, get a 20-foot container, put all the goop you find in it, and ship it over to us.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah,
Speaking of glue, it's maybe a good point, Darren, we should make videos about how to correctly use different glue types, because just recently I had another talk with someone who said, yeah, I tried to glue on my antennas or whatever with Yoo-hoo Pour and it didn't stick. It was like silicone and pulling apart again because he did it wrong. It's contact glue and not direct glue. Maybe it's worth to make some videos about that.
Yeah, well, you can use it directly, but you just have to leave it for like 24, 48 hours to dry.
It's actually a really good glue when you use it directly. Just you do really have to make sure you let it dry, like Darren says, like 48 hours. But it makes like a really nice, soft and pliable glue.
Yeah, but even then, if you pull it apart, it will still pull apart on the glue surface, and it will stretch like silicone. It will not get really hard. If you do it as a contact glue, it will like fuse together the foam. It's completely one part then. Okay, Steve, now we can go on.
Okay. Well, now we know more about the Yoo-hoo. So, do you know anything about this company Yoo-hoo? For Yoo-hoo, it's just like, all I know is this amazing stuff. It's like $5 a bottle for us, or for.
Yeah, it's $1.50 for us. And Yoo-hoo is mainly the standard glue in Germany. If you want glue, it's either Patex or Yoo-hoo. So it's like standard.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay. So. So flying styles, what kind of planes I know you want the mini drac. We'll be talking all about your nano drac, and we'll be talking about the mini drac and all these other things, and Chris Click and all these things that are wonderful. But what do you fly mostly? I know you have the I got my hands on it. It's the Easy Star.
Yeah, I just got my hands on it too. I had 2 of them. I successfully crashed 2 of them, and now I got myself a third one, the third iteration of it, and it actually has ailerons from stock. The old ones didn't have ailerons. You could upgrade them with the ailerons, but the new ones have them stock.
So you have an Easy Start 2 then?
No, it's a 3.
The 3, okay.
The one I'm building right now is a 3, and the ones I had were 1. Were the first iterations of it, and it's actually a brilliant plane. I'm just waiting for the servos. I ordered, of course, digital servos, Mark, and I'm just waiting for the servos to arrive, and then I'll lock myself in my basement for a day or so and put it together. I'm actually really looking forward to it, because this one I promise I will leave this one stock completely stock. I won't modify anything. I just wanted to have a relaxing model that flies like it should, and just wanted a model that doesn't have that much of shelf life of my other projects I'm doing at the moment. So
I mean, so you can build faster.
Give it 2 weeks and it will have control rods through the wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has exposed control rods. Yeah, it has. But yeah, I'll just leave it like that.
What other INAV planes are you flying right now?
It's actually a brilliant plane.
Fantastic. What other INAV planes are you flying right now?
The only INAV plane flying in this place right now is the good old AR Classic.
Oh, cool.
I actually have it here. It's hadn't had too much flying hours. It looks pretty much like new, but I rebuilt it about 3 times or so. But this one is my go-to workhorse. Just works. And I'm building a quad right now, a 7-inch quad on INAV. Just to widen the perspective a little.
So rebuilding it 3 times, what did you do to rebuild these planes? That's kind of a new plane, the Classic.
What?
The Classic is a new plane.
No, it's not a new plane. It's 2.5 years old.
Okay, yeah. The AR Wing came out with the Classic. Yeah, Luke, mute yourself.
I am muted.
Yeah, I hear you talking.
Not your keyboard.
We hear you talking and hear your keyboard. You said you are muted.
Oh, well, my mic is muted. That must mean it's the wrong mic. Okay. Well, because I have like a little light on my mic that turns off and on when it's muted. So.
Okay. We're a professional show here, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, is that better?
Totally
Can you
at
now
home.
not hear me?
No, I can still hear you.
You can still hear you.
Much better, yeah.
So the AR Sonic model came out with something called the AR Classic. So it's a brand new plane. It came out. It's like $50 for it. It's the kit. But what's different about it is that it has, instead of the wood being glued in, it comes with the wood not glued in. So you can sit there and you can cut holes in for your flight controllers and things like that.
Yeah, it is mainly. No, it was stock. I have actually nothing on it that was
Original
kit.
Yeah.
These are digital metal gig servos. It's deep power 215 or something. I've totally forgot what they were. Of course, I cut the hinges. I made different rods. I have an airspeed sensor on it.
What motor do you have on there?
It's an F80. T-motor F80, 1900 kV.
So it's
on a-
pretty loud.
And it
Sorry?
looks like you've got a nice little fairing there that you've printed.
Yeah, it's a tapered motor mount because I hate these brick wall rear ends we were talking about often enough in the group, and yeah, it's a little elongated, and it also covers the flat rear end of these parts here. It actually makes the motor half as loud. It cuts the noise in half, and the thrust is really good on this 3-blade 50-55, and I simply copied in one of the rebuilding sessions. I simply copied the ESC position Mark has on his, and this one works really well. I think it's.
You run that on 6S or 4S?
Yeah, it's 6S. It's 6S.
And
And
have
it's
you?
inside completely standard. It's an F70 F722, and this one is actually my only plane which is on 2.4 gigahertz video, and it's actually my only plane that has this Christmas tree of an antenna on it. It's an old 2.4 cloverleaf, but as soon as you fly with your buddies, 2.4 video is pretty crap.
I think at least if the buddies have 2.4 gigahertz RX link, right? Control link.
I'm sorry.
It should. I think it's crap if the other buddies have 2.4 gigahertz control link, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because the control links are sweeping through the whole bandwidth all the time with the spread spectrum, so they always jump in your frequency then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to get back to you. We're going to have you join us in the conversations today. So one of the things I appreciate finding more about you and your background. One of the things we're going to get into is we had a lot drop this week when it came to INAV 3.0. And there were some new gems in that stack of things that we've already discussed about INAV 3.0, things to get excited about, and also some warnings. So to break it down into English, it's a joke, is Mark Hoffman.
So yeah, I mean, Paweł made a special live stream about INAV 3.0 on Thursday, so it's definitely worth to look that afterwards. He has it completely on his channel. I think it's only about 1 hour long, and even in that time, only talking about INAV 3.0, he just covered a few of the things. Currently, there are around 160 pull requests, code changes just for INAV, and then a lot more for the configurator. And in the last talk, we also already talked about some new INAV features that are basic. Yeah.
I'm gonna just stop you right there. 160 pull requests. Can you explain to people what pull requests are?
Yeah, that's basically requests from the developers to apply code changes. So a developer programs a new feature that can include different files that have to be changed, code added to different parts of the flight control firmware. And then if everything is complete, if that feature is complete, then they send out a pull request, and this will get implemented into INAV. So we have around 160 feature changes or bug fixes or maybe also features removed, but I think there's not much removed in INAV 3.0.
That's insane. 160 changes. That's a lot to fathom.
And there's even more to come. I mean, we are not even feature complete. I think Paweł and Konstantin will make a feature stop in, I think, mid of May or so. So then they will say, okay, nothing new, unless it's really a critical thing like bug fixes, of course. And from there on, the release candidate phase or beta testing and then release candidate phase will start.
Okay, fantastic. That's we call that a drop dead day. They usually have a date where, like May 15th, where you whatever you got is what you're working with. So.
Yeah,
okay,
I think they decide releases or feature stops pretty much by the feeling, okay, that's enough for this version, and now we go with that what we have, and there's no special date. They have no timeline. So Paweł still says maybe somewhere mid-June for a final release if nothing major is found till then, and that needs rework.
Wow, that's gonna be amazing. So it's gonna be. You found some new things out this week. There was one thing you wrote to us about.
Yes, indeed. But right now I can't remember. Darren, do you know what it was? There was one special thing I was really amazed about. Was it the Pid controller?
I remember you talking about the Mavlink stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Mavlink, that was it. And one important new feature I didn't know about beforehand was INAV 3.0 will likely get Mavlink RC package support. So we don't have full Mavlink ground control station like mission planning and configuration and all that stuff. But what should be possible is that you use a Mavlink ground control station like Q Ground Control that's multi-platform on Android, iOS, Windows, Linux, whatever you want. And you can use the control link of the ground control station to control directly INAV and override the control channels. So what you in theory can do then is put a gamepad on your laptop and just having a telemetry link, bidirectional telemetry link between your laptop and your plane, and then you can fly your plane with an Xbox gamepad on your laptop, for example. What you also could do is if you could use a tablet, for example, with on-screen control sticks and fly your plane with that for long-range stuff. You also could then use some of the technology available for autopilot that uses the mobile network to transmit telemetry, video signal, and also Mavlink packages over the internet. And then you can control your INAV plane by that. It's still limited. It's not as capable as autopilot is, but it goes into that direction. So this will the first time give you unlimited controlling in INAV.
So what I'm looking forward to is the time when you go out to the field with your buddies. What you do is establish an ad hoc network with all your tablets, so that way you can see your friends. Instead of using the INAV radar, you can actually have them share the coordinates with you.
That's a different thing. That's a different thing. But this might work soon with the Bullet GCS I recently tested. And there's one planned feature to have radar implementation in there. So if you have multiple planes in the air at the same time, these planes will send their coordinates and their telemetry data to the online server, to the MQTT server. And in theory, or in the future, there's planned that multiple planes can send that telemetry to the same server. So you see all the planes on the same map on your laptop or tablet. And then also the server sends back the data of the other planes, so you can have an INAV radar functionality.
Wow!
Through this through the same system.
But that will require our INAV radar, and you have to have special hardware put in there. Each of the planes.
For this one, just these ESP32 modem devices I also use. Yeah. So you still can use the classic INAV radar with the ESP32 LoRa modules, and just have a direct link between the planes. And you can still use then a fifth module to just monitor all the telemetry from the planes that are in the air. But this has only limited range as far as the LoRa module goes. With the other system, with the Bullet GCS over mobile network, you have this for unlimited range.
Okay, so one of the things that Paweł did mention, he said that you're going to need to get rid of, when you go to INAV 3.0, you need to start fresh, or you can't use your diff and dump files completely. You can use aspects of it, like your OSDs and things like that, but this is pretty much a fresh build.
Yes and no. The stabilization controller, the PIFF controller we have currently, was not changed in a matter that the current values won't work anymore. So in theory, you can copy over your whole diff from your old plane and still use it on INAV 3.0. But there are some more settings where the default values have changed. Like things, the turn assist pitch gain that makes smoother coordinated turns instead of dropping in turns or raising the nose. They got new default values, and with the new PIDFF controller, the derivative, the D value, will be 0 by default in the first place. So if you copy over your whole diff, you won't have the benefit of using the D value on the plane. So it will work, but it's recommended that if you update to INAV 3.0, copy over your diff, but then apply one of the two presets for rings with elevon control or rings with T-tail, and then just start the tuning from scratch from this point. And the tuning will be much easier in 3.0 anyway.
What are you going to do? Because I know you have some planes that are expertly tuned. Are you going to start from scratch with INAV 3.0 and retune them?
Yeah, I think I won't update all planes at once, of course. So I will keep some for a while on 2.6, but especially my cruise and long range planes. If I update them, then I will completely tune them from scratch. Yeah.
I think
Okay.
the point that Pavel was making was it will be much more beneficial to do a tune from scratch because you'll get a better tune using the auto methods than you would have done with the previous versions of INAV. So you'll have a much better plane just from doing a tune again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
what I was going to say is that we're at a point now where, you know, we get people who, when they share their videos, we can tell like the planes aren't tuned as well as they possibly can be. And we got people asking for PIDs and all that stuff. I think we're at a point now where your plane is going to be tuned so specifically, like even if your best friend has the same plane and uses the same hardware, they still might want to start from scratch because it's so individualized that this tuning is going to be so much better than anything that you've ever done before. So
yeah,
sorry,
I mean, we worked with, or I worked with Alex on the new PIDFF controller, so I'm testing parallel to his development, and we also worked on the new default values for the Pid controller. And in my opinion, if you really use these presets, we had no plane unless they have a wingspan of more than 2.5 meters, then you should not do or not use any navigation mode on the maiden before tuning. But with the new defaults, I think any plane out there can fly easily from scratch, even with auto launch on the maiden, no problem, as long as the control surfaces go into the right direction. And then it's basically only trim, land, launch again, auto tune, and you are done. And the final thing we now have to figure out before the release is we need a correct balance between the P and the D value. Especially quad guys know what PD balance means, and we need a good P value to have a strong stabilization in wind, and we have a good D value to have a dampening to avoid overshooting on strong control inputs. That's basically the main thing. And as soon we find the correct balance here and the correct gain during the auto tune, then I think the tune will be so much easier than it was ever before. And you can tune any plane with 2 flights.
That's going to be insane, and it's going to be really good. So you've tested the new PIDFF controller?
Not yet. I've tested the defaults. I have tested the new auto board alignment, but not yet the PIDFF controller because the weather outside it's raining, it's windy, it's stormy during the last weeks. So I had no chance to fly again, but I have prepared 2 of my planes with the new firmware, with the new test firmware, and I will go out and fly as soon as it's possible and test that in flight. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So it sounds like it's going to be everything looks good so far. I mean, I can't believe you guys are this far along, or they're this far along with it. We just talked about this maybe 2 months ago that they're looking at doing this.
There's one guy who posted on GitHub that he has tested the new PIDFF already in an early stage with some randomly selected values. I will search the link and put it in the chat. So there's a video uploaded to GitHub directly, and you immediately see the difference how the plane flies, especially in wind. And this video was made on Dart 250G. Yeah, exactly. Do you have the link already, Darren?
I'm just going to look for it. So while you carry on chatting, I'll have a look for it.
We'll also tune the D value.
Yes, it will also tune the D value, but beside what I thought in the past, already on the PIFF controller, the P and the I values are calculated with a specific factor based on feed forward. Feed forward.
Oh, okay.
So mainly only feed forward is tuned, and the other values are calculated from the result the feed forward gives you. And that's why we need a special balance, and that balance will be always the same between P and D at the end.
Yeah, well, when you started writing the manuals, the first thing was like just one of the things you wrote in the fine tuning guide, masterclass tuning guide, was to make a video, flip the plane over as fast as possible. So you roll it as fast as possible, then count the frames. And I think there's probably Henrik, have you ever counted frames? He's like smirking
Never.
right now. Yeah.
Henrik has never before tuned any plane.
Never ever. Not once.
He has never even tuned a plane, right?
That was kind of a tall order for a lot of people.
Actually, you're right, Mark.
Are you also someone that
manual mostly?
that's what I was just about to ask. Are you also someone that flies in manual mode mostly?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Coming from LOS, I just started with FPV 3 years ago. 3 years ago, and before that, I had trainers, I had gas planes, I had gliders, I had hotliners, everything LOS. So a stabilized flight mode still feels a little unfamiliar for me.
I know exactly what you mean. I guess we have quite a similar background. It always feels quite limiting, even though there is actually no real limit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe the best way to explain it.
So Luke, now you're hearing all this what's going on. You've been paying attention. Luke is our guy who's like the autopilot aficionado. He does this for work.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you're watching the development here with 3.0. What are your thoughts? You've been listening the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think bringing back derivative control, which, INAV had before feed forward and then got rid of it for no real reason, is a really good thing. The best way to explain it is, you're always trying to raise up P as much as you can. And as you raise the P up and up, you get better and better stabilization performance. Well, derivative control just allows you to raise P up even higher before you get oscillations and stuff. So, having derivative is really nice. It should get the plane a lot more locked in and that kind of thing. Also tunes getting more advanced. All good, really.
I think the best thing is we have talked about that about half a year ago or in fall when I tried autopilot on a fixed string the first time. And I was flying the FPV, and as I explained, I didn't like the feel how autopilot flies, because autopilot uses a pure PID controller. It's a little bit with some background calculations, not a simple PID, but it is basically just a PID control like on a quad. So you have very fixed rates and a feeling like you fly a bad simulator on PC.
It's certainly a lot more robotic than INAV is.
Yes, absolutely.
Certainly, when I'm flying with a stabilized plane, I want it to be as robotic as possible. I don't want it to feel like a plane at all. I just want it to feel like, a computer game kind of thing. And when I want it to feel like a plane, then I fly in manual.
It's like flying a DJI drone. Flying a DJI drone versus a self-built INAV copter, whatever. Yeah.
I actually had a conversation about exactly that topic a few days ago, and the guy I was talking to had a pretty cool conclusion, easy conclusion about this, and he said, "Autopilot is for operators, INAV is for pilots."
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and that's the approach these two things are developed. Autopilot is made for making mainly a break fly, and INAV is to assist an RC model pilot. So I think the distinction is pretty clear if you look at it that way.
Yeah. I think, and the point where I was trying to go to is, in theory, with the new PIDFF controller, you can decide how you want to have your plane feel. You can, in theory, keep the D value at 0, a low P value, and just I for basic stabilization and drift compensation, like trim compensation. So it will fly like an assistant manual mode, as it did always with INAV, or it did the past 3 years I use it. You could add the D value and use a higher P value, so you will get some kind of hybrid control, or in theory,
I think it is worth pointing out that I don't think with derivative control INAV is suddenly going to become ArduPilot. It's still not going to be anywhere near as robust as ArduPilot. I have to admit, I have no idea why, but INAV never really seems to hold an angle in acro mode quite as much as ArduPilot would, which obviously, different people want different things. I don't think the derivative control will really change that too much, but it will certainly get it a lot more locked in.
Yeah, I mean, we will see how it goes at the end. We have to, of course, we have to try first how it will behave. But in theory, yeah, you can have classic INAV controls. You can turn down the feed forward to 0 and use just P, I, and D. Then it should, in theory, fly robotic like Autoplane does. Or you can have a hybrid and just use all the values like it's supposed to be used with 3.0 in the future. So we will see how it goes. I have not tried it yet on a live plane, but yeah, I'm really curious how it will feel with that one.
Interesting. So what other features of the, what other big finds did we figure out about, what did Pal bring up in this meeting or his podcast? Mark's thinking really hard right now.
You're talking with me. Sorry. Yeah. What else is new? I mean, the configurator got a pretty big overhaul thanks to Darren. Yes, put a lot of work in that too. A lot of people were screaming that we should not see any values that don't matter for us. Some people want to have a simple and an export mode, and I think it's not a good idea to have a simple and export mode, because at the end everyone will switch to export at the end, because there's this one little setting the developers decided to put in export only, but the beginner wants to still change. So at the end we switched, or we made a compromise, and Darren has overhauled the advanced tuning page, and we will now have different views if you have a multi-rotor or a fixed ring or a rover, and you will only see the relevant information and the relevant boxes and settings for each category depending on how the flight controller is configured. I think that's also a very important point.
That definitely sounds like a big advantage. Does it get rid of like the multi-rotor tuning page on the navigation tuning area?
Yes,
well?
In navigation tuning area, the multi-rotor will be removed completely if you have an airplane setup. There's just 2 settings in the general section, right, Darren?
Well, firstly, I just want to make a thing about the expert versus basic mode. I can't fly quads for crap. I have beta flight. One of the first things I did was enable expert mode, and this is without even knowing anything about how to use it or whatever. So I just don't see the point in implementing that, because I think 90% of people will just go straight to expert mode anyway. But yeah, with the advanced tuning page now, there's basically 2 sections. There's a top section and then a bottom section. Top section will change depending on your platform. So if it's fixed wing, it will be fixed wing. If it's multi-rotor, it will be multi-rotor. And if it's any other, it will display both, just so that there's no redundancy. That was what Paweł suggested, just to display both. And then in the bottom section is actually a general section that you'll see for every platform anyway. So in there'll be the return to home settings. I think the waypoint stuff is in there. Yeah, I think it's only there's 3 things in there. I can't remember what the third is now.
Return to home settings.
Yeah, return to home waypoints. They're both in there, but there's another small one that's just been added. I can't remember what it is. One sec, let me look at the pull request.
Sitting in front of you, we don't know what it is.
I don't know if I put it on this latest screen grab.
Yeah. Anyway, at least we know we will have a big overhaul and make it more visible or better visible for people to find the settings they want to change.
So I could probably just right here. I could say something that about every 3 months we get somebody who writes in. Samantha wrote in one time and asked about this. Can we put in a simplified INAV mode or like a basic INAV mode? So
it won't happen.
Yeah, that was her. It was kind of like Copilot. Or she wanted INAV Lite. That was it. And so it was kind of like Copilot with INAV.
Yeah, then we are back in that area where we say export mode and beginner's mode. And as we said already, that won't happen. But
what
I mean,
about a script where it asks you questions, it takes you through, and then, you know, it's not part of the configurator, but it will change the settings in configurator depending on your answers?
I mean, I think there's not really a need for that, because let's say we are on INAV 3.0 already. You have to set up your receiver, your mixer. That's always the same procedure, and it's 3 clicks in each page, nothing more. So in my opinion, it doesn't make sense if you go through an assistant or if you go just through the tabs on the side of the configurator from top to bottom. And you just need the first 5 tabs or so. And then the receiver or the ports for where you plug everything in, you say what mixer you have, you set your modes you want to have, you select your preset. The preset is already selected in the first connection to the flight controller anyway. And if everything is connected, basically that's it. I mean, you plug in the battery and you launch the plane.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, with 3.0, it's going to be very, very simple. There's certain things that you have to do anyway, which you've just mentioned. But the new auto-tune is just going to sort everything else out for you. So it's not really anything that can get much more simple. That's about where it's at.
Okay.
So you're recommending I could do an auto-tune too?
Yeah,
absolutely. Definitely.
Even Henrik can auto-tune.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's a relief. I'm so thankful.
I mean, sometimes I find it really funny that people say, "Hey, I'm just flying in manual mode 99.9% of the time," but then I have to ask, why do you put a flight controller in there? The usual answer is just for emergency if I have a fail-safe. But if you have a really, really badly tuned plane, the plane will just crash if it fail-safes, because the return to home won't work.
Well, yeah, that's quite a picky case. Yeah, the thing is, my planes always fly in manual, so they are mechanically tuned. So if I don't get the board orientation completely wrong, even return to home works. So even without ever touching auto-tune, to be honestly speaking.
But the problem
is another. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Luke, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So like, I don't have on some of my planes. I have INAV without even return tone set up. Instead, I just use them for things like D-Shot for the ESC, an OSD, telemetry for the ESC, barometer, GPS, and that kind of thing. So I don't actually use it for flight modes or stabilization at all. Just for kind of like a hub for all the other parts.
Yeah, on the AR, for example, I just showed you. I use it for ESC telemetry because I want to know the voltage, the battery sag. I want to know the current. I want to know the motor RPM, which is totally vital for the choice of props. So you can just work out your perfect prop regarding RPM and comparing it to airspeed. That's why I have an airspeed sensor on it. And if you want to squeeze out the last few miles per hour, you need that stuff. So that's mainly an info for me.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Absolutely. And by the way, there's one interesting feature. I just saw the link somewhere and I lost it again. I will look that up. There was one new thing in INAV 3.0. Yeah. Of course, there are also some changes for copter pilots, luckily, so they won't get left out. So just to mention a few, like we will have D-Shot beeper for people who don't have buzzers. They can let the motors beep finally. I think people are screaming for that for years now. We will have turtle mode to flip over if you crash your quad.
I have one INAV quad, and I am very thankful for that. turtle mode will be. I'm not a big quad guy, but that'll be quite nice.
I have to say, I'm still wondering if there are so many people flying quads like 5-inch or smaller, actually with INAV. I will try to on my biggest freestyle quad. I have installed INAV, but I have not flown it yet. I just want to compare it because I was never able to tune Betaflight properly on that thing. But I think everything bigger, a 7-inch or maybe even a 10-inch turtle mode won't really help.
No, so I mean, all of my bigger stuff I run ArduPilot on, but I had wrong side that quad there, which is a 5-inch, but it only weighs 120 grams. I run that on INAV with just Matec, small Matec board. I can't even remember which one. But yeah, it'd be very nice to have turtle mode on that. Yeah,
that's nice. So another very interesting thing for especially for plane pilots, not only quad pilots, is you have now the possibility to influence the return to home flight behavior in flight if you do not face safe, of course. So currently, let's say that you have set your return to home altitude to max, and during your flight you were at 500-meter altitude, for example. You dived a mountain or whatever, and then you switch return to home. The plane would climb to 500 meters, for example, and maybe in the wrong direction, and then fly away from you during the climb, then turn around and then come back. And with INAV 3.0, you will be able to influence that behavior. Like during the climb phase, you can push your pitch forward for at least a second to the max, and then the climb will be aborted and the plane will return on the current altitude it has at this point.
Oh, cool.
So that's really interesting. The same is for the climb first option. If you have climb first enabled, and the plane is in the climb, you can push your roll stick to the right or to the left for 1 second at the max, and then the climb first will be overwritten and the plane will turn around but still climb to return to home altitude. And the third interesting thing is INAV will get a spiral climb option. So if you are face safing or if you are in the return to home mode, you can tell INAV to fly a spiral or just a loiter and climb during that loiter to the return to home altitude and then come back. And this is really interesting if you fly between mountains or other big obstacles in the area, to avoid flying into something, because it will just climb on the spot and then come back.
But you can define climb angle, loiter radius, speed, etc. Also.
Not the speed, because the speed is dictated by the cruise throttle. But yes, you can the climb rate, the climb angle still, or the navigation functions.
Angles.
It's like position hold, but with a climb in navigation modes.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing that just came in INAV, I think, wait a second, 6 days ago. So it's a pretty new feature that was added right now. And
I think it's kind of cool if you did the opposite of that, when you get back to wherever you're at, for you to be able to have an altitude go down to, let's say, 120 meters. So that
that's what we already have. That's what we already had in the past, but now you can do the same for the climb. To climb first in the spiral, then come back and then spiral down again. So you're always safe for obstacles, and if you fly in the between mountains or so, you don't risk to fly into a mountain range or so.
Yeah, that's the return to home altitude.
Yeah, exactly. That was the final descent altitude after the return to home that we already had.
So INAV 2.0, that was added.
yeah. So what else do we have?
One thing you were talking about INAV on quads without compass. I'm thinking of this little one here. I have a Betaflight race quad in my hands, but I attached a BN180 GPS on it, and I'm running it on Betaflight, but to be honest, I have less knowledge on Betaflight than I have on INAV. and I would like to flash just flash INAV on it and have most of the features I have on INAV. But I read you have to have a compass.
Yes, you still have to have one. Last year Paweł was working on a solution on that to have at least some kind of rescue mode like Betaflight have without compass, or even limited navigation mode. In theory it's possible, because you have your angles, you have your flight direction. In theory it could be possible, but Paweł was never able to get it stable enough that he thinks it's ready for release, so it won't come in 3.0.
It shouldn't do waypoint navigation modes. I think if you're flying a race quad, you just want in a fail-safe situation that you that the thing is going horizontal and will try to climb to a predefined altitude. That's it, until you regain control.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is currently possible already with barometer. I mean, you can go into, if you are phase saved, you can in theory activate the land mode, and I think in land mode it will use the barometer to have its steady descent rate and touch down softly. It won't. You cannot make it climb and fly back, of course, but in theory it should be possible to have at least a soft descent in a phase save.
Yeah, I'll try that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have not tried that yet with INAV, but I could also test with my big one because I have a GPS on there. But yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, we are running up to the hour break right now. We're a few minutes early. I would say let's cut it right here. We're going to come back and hit some more points for INAV 3.0, and we're going to talk to Henrik more about his dream mini Drac, and we're going to find out. We'll talk to Darren and find out how I suckered him into writing a manual for FreeSky. And so lots to cover here. So we'll be back in 90 seconds. Don't go away. Thank you so much. everybody, we're back. We're talking Mark Hoffman. We're talking INAV 3.0. It's happening right now. They're laughing because we just did this. Mark said, "Hey, Steve, say something." So I said, "Okay, everyone, we're back." And then no, we just need to switch the camera. So let's go back to Mark Hoffman and find out more about INAV 3.0. This is good stuff here.
Yeah, so where were we? Wait a second. I am still on the pull request list right now. The last thing was the spiral climb option we talked about, and what else? Yeah, something for Crossfire users. We will, you guys will finally got cell voltage reported by INAV, because that was not possible till 2.6. You just got the main battery voltage, and now you can have cell voltage reported over Crossfire telemetry. I'm not sure if you can, if you have to switch between them, or if you will get both, but it will be possible to have cell voltage at least. OSD.
There's also for the OSD for the Dji Goggles, right?
Yes, of course. We talked about that in the last stream already. So the Dji Goggles will get more features by misusing the name tag of the craft and using it for for showing data. So it should be possible then to use in-flight adjustments. So you can do in-flight tuning like we can with analog. It's not that comfortable because you cannot see all the values at once, but at least you can see what you select and what you set. And speaking of the OSD, there's one interesting thing, maybe not interesting for everyone. The Disarm Screen will get a multi-page functionality. So right now we are limited to the items we see when we disarm our plane. Or in general our aircraft, and it is not configurable like on Betaflight, but with 3.0 the disarm screen can have multiple pages. You can use your roll stick then to navigate through them to see much more stats of your last flight than you have currently. So
cool.
What else? I think we talked the last time already about the custom PID control or PID. No, that's. I think that was new. That was not live in the last stream, right, Darren? If I remember correctly, the custom PIDFF.
We talked a little bit.
I can't remember it. I can't actually remember when it was added.
Okay, so yeah. That's one new feature in the programming tab. You will get the separate page now with user customizable PIDFF controllers. So you can have your own PID controller and you can use that PID controller for whatever you want to do. You can have a airspeed controlled or airspeed based throttle control if you want. You just have to program it for yourself, of course. It will not be in the INAV core. You can have a secondary PIDFF controller or PID controller only if you want, and in theory also finally build a full INAV VTOL. It will need some work. It's still more work than on autopilot, because on autopilot you just select what you want to build or what you want to get to fly. But it should be possible. I've not tried it yet. I also have to figure it out, and maybe that will be my chance to finally build my Skyhunter Racing micro VTOL setup here. And what else? I think we have the most new things already covered since that was published since our last Ring Talk. At this point,
the most important feature, does it have H7 support?
I knew you were going to ask that.
Ask Constantine.
You know, Paul did mention that during this live stream. They said they were looking at it, but they hadn't nothing definite yet.
Yeah, apparently it's running, just without inputs and outputs at the moment, but it's actually running on the board now, so there is progress being made.
Yeah, okay. So Pavel didn't say no. You did not say no, but we shouldn't push our hopes too far. So might be, might not be, but I wouldn't. I would say don't buy an H743 right now if you want to use INAV on it on 3.0.
I bought it last year.
I know. It was expected. Everyone was expecting it, but it didn't work out. So yeah, still no H7 support, and maybe not even in 3.0.
So there's we're trying to figure out right now if what's going to happen first. INAV get H7 support, or Hobby Kings can get the Bixler 2 parts back in stock.
No,
that's the big race right now.
No, the big race will be will INAV when will INAV get H7 support, or when will OpenTX 2.4 get released? But then INAV has a good chance.
Yeah, but OpenTX will get to 3.1.7.8 first, so you know they'll have 10 different various versions before then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
did
yeah.
Paweł mention CAN bus for H7?
When H7 comes, then CAN bus is planned to be supported. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure I've seen pull requests for something to do with CAN bus already, so I think there is some CAN bus stuff already in there. Possibly for that F405 with the GPS built onto it.
I mean, it makes sense.
There's something I've seen in the pull request though.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to implement the features already because it's just the INAV core that has to be adapted to the new processor. Paweł said some things in his live stream. Actually, I didn't really listen because I didn't care at that moment about H7 for myself. But he mentioned something that so much has changed in the H7 architecture that it's a lot of work to get it running. And I know Betaflight did it pretty fast, so it was about 3 or 4 months after the first H7 board came out and Betaflight was available for it. But they literally just threw stuff on there. They use so much extra resources because they did no optimization at all, nothing. The H7s were partially slower in computing or had a higher CPU load at the end than the F765 CPUs, although the processors are much more capable in performance. So yeah, they just threw things together.
I just wanted to make clear, although I sound a little cocky with that.
Good.
We all have to be a little thankful because Konstantin's and the guys are doing this for free. So yeah.
Always worth mentioning. Yeah, big thank you to the developers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So I've got a question. If we're done with this, Mark, do you have anything else that you see in INAV 3.0?
I think there's nothing anymore we haven't already talked about in the last Ring Talk. And yeah, if people want to have some more details, just look at the recorded live stream from Paweł. It was on Thursday, as I mentioned before. And there will be much more information about a lot of things. Okay,
perfect. Well, thanks for the breakdown on that. I really appreciate that. Hey, Darren, I've got a question for you. He's like smiling. Somebody posted it in the group, a video. I'm trying to remember the name. It's True LRS or something like that. It's a new protocol. It's something other than...
Oh, Express LRS.
Express LRS, yes.
No.
So what is that about? Because I mean, it was an interesting video, and it did. We'll talk about the video in a second. But what is Express LRS about it?
It's basically a different protocol over. Well, at the moment they're using the R9 modules, or they're bringing out 2.4 modules. So it's basically a different protocol. It's developed open source. But to be honest, I've not really looked too much into it because at the moment it doesn't really interest me. I'm similar to Mark in that firstly, it's not legal because it doesn't support LBT, and secondly, it's got no telemetry. I mean, there's some really interesting things in it. The frame consistency is absolutely excellent from what I've seen, but that could change once telemetry is added. So there are some positive things about it, but it's at the moment it's not really piqued my interest enough to have a proper look.
Okay, they put out a video of a guy who had a AR wing. It looks like he's flying INAV with it, and he was using auto launch. First thing he does is crash it in a tree, and then it screwed up his thing. But what he did is he showed the video. He put it down to 10 milliwatts, and he wanted to see how far I can fly with his module on 10 milliwatts. He got out to 40 kilometers before he had to turn around. He was losing video by that point.
That's Wesley who made that video. And I've also seen it, and from my perspective, Express LRS will get telemetry, flight controller telemetry. It will be limited though, so they have to keep the data bandwidth as low as possible, because it's somewhat funny. On the GitHub page they say, hey, Express LRS outperforms Crossfire on and R9 on 900 megahertz, and it outperforms all the other 2.4 gigahertz links too, because they don't or they have very small packet sizes, so they can use lower bandwidth and therefore have less issues with noise floor. But for that they have no telemetry. But now if they add telemetry to the system, then this advantage will basically shrink down. It will not go fully away if they keep the telemetry very basic, but it will shrink, of course. And my opinion on that is, in the 2.4 gigahertz area, where we have a lot of systems, we have FlySky, we have FrSky, we have Graupner, we have Spectrum, we have Ghost, we have Tracer, and something I forgot.
Futaba, Yeti.
We have Futaba, Yeti, yeah, of course. There are so many systems, and I think in the 2.4 gigahertz area, it has its place. You have really great range, you have a strong penetration because it uses no telemetry, because it uses LoRa, and a very low bandwidth it needs. But in the 900 megahertz area, I think it's completely useless, in my opinion, because any 900 megahertz control system we have right now will outperform even the best FPV feed. And it makes no sense to put anything on the market that outperforms all the other control links when you still don't get any more range.
I don't know. I'm not.
So... Oh, go ahead.
Carry on, Steve.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I'm not quite so pessimistic about Express LRS. I don't think. I think it could. I think it being open source is very nice, and the fact that it can use multiple different types of hardware, some that's being made DIY and that kind of thing, I think is really good. It means that the kind of things that are going on with FreeSky, not necessarily a bad thing, but where we won't be able to use receivers into the future and whatever, won't happen. And I think that we can still have a more solid control link, although most 5.8 gigahertz systems won't outrun a 900 megahertz control link. You can certainly do it with 1.3. So yeah, into the future, when it gets more features, I'll definitely be looking to switch. But at the moment, as Darren says, and you've said, it doesn't really have the features to entice me over just yet.
Darren mentioned no LBT mode, which means the European Union mode. It's only for FCC, only for the United States. Everyone outside the European Union can use it, right? So you guys can't use it.
No, not really. So even in the US, you aren't allowed to use it because you do still have rules. They're just different. But from my perspective, I don't really care because we're all breaking many FCC or whatever rules anyway. Nobody's running their 5.8 VTX at 25 milliwatts. Nobody's running their 900 megahertz link at 10 milliwatts. Nobody's running, So I'm a bit more careful about aviation laws, but FCC laws.
I mean, that's a point I hear very often, that people say, hey, reduce send in video and controllings and whatever in too high power levels anyway, so who cares? But I think that's actually not the right statement at this point. I mean, look at the 5.8 gigahertz systems for video, or even 2.4 gigahertz. These are pretty much open bands. Everyone can use without any license. Yes, you are power limited, but the bandwidth available in the 5.8 gigahertz, for example, is so big. You have a very big area where Wi-Fi is working from 4.9 or 5 gigahertz to 5.5 gigahertz, I think. Then we have our FPV area from 5.4 to 5.9, I think, in that area. So you have a very, very big area where nothing public is transmitting or receiving anything. So it's basically freely available, and you don't have a very big penetration, so the range is limited, and you cannot disturb or interfere with someone or something that's 100 kilometers away. On the other hand, if you have a 868 band or 915 band controlling system, they are direct neighbors in the public areas. You have CB systems, you have GPS systems or radar systems, whatever. You have airplane mobile phones.
Well,
in
I
Europe,
agree
mobile
with
phones
that.
are
Nobody uses these today. Yeah, so
I don't know about other countries, but certainly in the UK, none of those things run on the 868 band. The only thing that we really have on the 868 band is like garage door openers.
Yeah, that's
maybe,
the point.
You know,
that's the point. On the
alarm system.
Yeah, look, at the 868 band, but you have 872 bands, for example. There you have public stuff already. And
even those, we don't really have anything in the UK. I think the closest we have, for, important stuff is 433 or 915.
Okay, then maybe for you it's different. I mean, we have our Bundesnetzagentur, our public service that manages all the frequencies, and if you look into their tables, it's completely crowded in that area. And even there, you have services overlapping on the same frequencies, so even they have to look that they find their space when they transmit or receive data. Even satellite system. There are satellite systems on the 871 and 872 bands, for example, and that's a big problem I see here. That if you are transmitting there and you are standing even out in the field with 1 watt transmission power, you will basically light up like a Christmas tree for any one of these public services who are scanning for illegal transmitters, for example. That's the point.
Yeah, maybe in other countries it is more important then.
Yeah, maybe. But I would be really, really careful to use these systems there. I mean, even if we use Crossfire or R9 on 1 watt with telemetry, that's already illegal. But I know these systems are properly tested and developed and tuned and certified. So at least I'm sure they will stay inside their band and not do any mess around, and they at least use
from
LBT,
that
for example.
perspective. I don't know, but I presume since it's the same hardware, Express LRS couldn't transmit on a different band. So if the hardware is already certified for one band, they're not software-defined radios or anything. So
that's not completely true, because for example, Crossfire and R9 can run an 868 and 915 megahertz. There's no different modems. You just give the modem a different clock. You just change the clock.
All the way up to 915 then, can it?
Yeah, in theory, you can change the software to send in 700 megahertz if you want. That's possible. You will likely, if you go too much outside of the band, you will have so much losses inside the amplifier that you might burn it up, but it is possible.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. We're getting into the weeds a little bit here, guys. We can pull it out.
Yeah,
well, I think it's the important bits. That's the interesting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound like it could be something that's interesting in the future. But it does need a bit more work, I think. From my
definitely, yeah.
So speaking of Free Sky, I decided to make the jump into modules, the R9 system. Excuse me. Yeah, and so I talked to Darren, and Darren said, "Oh, the ones to get for you are going to be the R9mm." And so I got these, and I was going to ask Darren, "How do you hook these things up?" And then he starts hitting me with all the code, all the lingo. It's like, "Oh, you're the FCC mode, you're not the LBT mode, so you got to do this, and you got to be, if you are F port versus S port," and I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" So finally, what I did
you are
is
the prototype TVS Crossfire customer. Just connect to your UART and you're ready to go.
Yeah. So what I did was I said to Mark, I said to the guys, I got to write a manual about this. And Mark writes back, he goes, "You're not the guy to write this because you don't understand it." And I go, "That's how I learn." So I started writing a manual, and Darren looks at it and he's like, "Well, you left out about half the information, and the half that you did get, about 40% of it's right." So he went back in and essentially wrote the whole thing. And from that, we actually, the guys at FreeSky got a hold of it, and they just loved it because it was actually from start to finish explains the entire thing. And I don't want to spend like an hour on talking about FreeSky, but basically what I learned in the process was like, I think I was mad like everyone else. It's like, why do I have to learn all this stuff? It's so complicated. The reality is that there's like a 10-year period of time where FreeSky was out, and they've done a lot of changing over the 10-year period of time. You had D8, then D16, ACCST, then you went to ACCS 2.0, then you went to Access, and then all these things. F-port, there's F-port 2, there's S-port. If this doesn't make any sense to you, we put together the manual, and we've explained everything from start to finish. And Darren, thank you so much for doing this. I know this is a little bit more than what you signed up for. And he's smiling in the background.
We signed up?
Yeah. I don't remember signing that. No, it was an interesting project because, I think trying to keep this document so it looks like Steve still wrote it as well was quite challenging. He's got that flow that I just don't have. I'm very sort of try to be very matter of fact. But yeah, it was good because I actually learned things as well. For example, when ACCST version 2 came out, one of the big things was you install this, you can't use D8 anymore, you can't use LR12 anymore. And I was certainly one of these people that just sort of took it as these people are being factual, but it's actually not true. You can. I've got ACCST version 2 on that old Tyrannus there and still use D8 and LR12. So there was stuff that even I sort of learned as well while doing this. So it was very useful.
Yeah, so this was a good project. I learned a lot about FreeSky. I actually had to have one of my transmitters fixed and took it over to the repair facility for FreeSky is actually about 19 miles from where I live. So went over there, I got to know the guys and the sales reps, and a couple of the guys are joined the group. And so they're a good bunch of people. They're wanting to get into flying planes. A lot of these guys are quad pilots, so it's going to be good. We're going to hopefully have a better relationship with them. At the same time, just to make sure Henrik is happy, I did talk to Trappy and I said, listen, we need to have the same kind of document for, Crossfire. Can you guys do it? And he's like, yeah, I'll get my guys on it. So I said, Henrik has volunteered to do it. So if you'd like to help us with the document, please talk to Trappy about that. And he's like, Henrik's shaking his head. It's a good video. Okay, so
I already started with it. I'm by no means a fanboy, but you mainly said why I switched to Crossfire from R9. I had R9, and I suffered from the same confusion as you did, and I just was fed up at some point in time, and then I had all the problems with TBS Crossfire 2 you can have. So yeah, I'm now using it, and for me it's brilliant because I can also control my VTX power with it on the fly. So it has a very interesting feature set for my kind of flying, and it's totally easy. And what I find interesting about Crossfire, I just purchased an old plane a few weeks ago. Mark was in the process, and I showed it to him, and it happened to have the first Crossfire receiver they actually sold. It was the first iteration of it. I don't think I have it at hand at the moment. It's a box with a little battery in it, and it has a backup battery to call for help if you crash your plane. It's pretty cool, and it's the first one. It's 5 years old or something. I just switched on my receiver, I switched on my radio, I pressed bind, and it found the receiver, it binded itself and updated itself over the air, and I hadn't do anything. So it simply works, and that was a little fascinating for me, coming from R9 and having this firmware mess to deal with.
So, speaking of mess, just a little story from my side. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I put out the KP2 that has a Crossfire micro diversity receiver in there, and I thought, hey, let's just put the newest Crossfire release on the full-size module I have. Started the plane, it connects, it says update. Okay, I click update, it updated the receiver, and after the update I had a connection for about 1 or 2 seconds, and then it went into green flash. Nothing happened. I was working here literally an hour with reverting firmware, with updating again, with doing back and forth and all that stuff. I even completely reset and rebind everything. It was just not working. I think it was Papa Noob, he's in the chat also, who helped me a little bit, but even he couldn't figure out what was happening. And at the end, what I found out that Crossfire introduced model matching for their receivers and modules. So you can have, depending on the OpenTX model and the model ID you set in OpenTX, a specific receiver bound to this OpenTX model, so you don't connect accidentally the wrong plane to the wrong OpenTX model. And this was not working for some reason. So I had a model match number 1 or 2 or so set, and it just refused to stay connected. And after I set it back to 0, everything was working. So yeah. For some reason I have the same problem like Henrik. I get any problem with Crossfire you can get, but at least they are solvable on one or the other way.
And Henrik is looking around for something. He's wearing a North American Space Administration jersey, so thank you so much for doing that.
I'm a fanboy about that, actually. So I think.
Okay, while you're walking around, Henrik, I saw something in the background to your right. It looked like a sail for a big boat or something.
Yeah, it's
one.
There it is. Yeah.
Like this?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, then I have to stand up again.
You have to keep talking.
Oh, here we go. INAV rover.
Actually, the ceiling is too low. It's a 1 meter America's Cup racing yacht.
Oh wow!
So the other part of the hobby.
Do you race RC yachts then?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Dennis Connor.
That looks very fancy.
Yeah, it's mainly you can't just be in one part of the hobby. I think I have owned everything you can operate with a remote control, except helicopters. I didn't dare that one. I started flying. I've started flying with fixed wing at about 10. I told it, and at that time, you had Kreisel in Germany. It's Kreiselsysteme, meaning gyros.
Yeah.
Gyroscopes. Yeah, but you had mechanical ones, and the helicopters had actually spinning discs in them.
Oh yeah.
And a potentiometer that took the motion of the disc by comparing it to the motion of the fuselage in the rotating yaw axis. So those things were boxes like a fist big or something, and the rest was totally manual, completely manual. And if you have ever tried to fly a quad without any stabilization, it's like balancing it on a balloon or something, on a ball or something. And those old helicopters were even worse because the control inputs were very slow. So you could easily overcompensate just by moving the stick just a second, just a little. And I didn't dare that one because they were extremely expensive on the time when I started. So I never got to it. I had cars, I had submarines, I had race boats, I had sailboat. Yeah.
All right. We have to ask you, what's the story with the mini drac? And so you can kind of break into it, then with the nano drac and all this stuff. And
yeah, I just.
And what servos are you putting in them?
Yeah, I just fell in love with them. That's everything.
Anything less than Savox, I'll be disappointed.
Sorry.
Anything less than Savox servos, and he'll be disappointed.
It's actually for the mini drag. I have D power here. These are pretty nice. I think it's the 9 gram size, the typical 9 gram size. These are brushless, 8 kilo servos.
Nice.
These are like 50 euros each for these things.
Yeah,
they look good.
Exactly, 49 euros. But these are the cheap ones.
I've not heard of D-Power before. Are they a popular brand in Germany, or?
Actually, I discovered D-Power when I was looking for a spinner for my hotline glider, and I used Reisenauer before. I don't know if you know Reisenauer. Reisenauer builds.
I didn't know them before you shared the link with me to them. So
yeah, I'll give them to you. Reisenauer does pretty good props, folding props in carbon fiber, and they also use have the spinner inner parts. Steve, I sent you a link for the Easy Star spinner.
Yes. Thank you.
That was a Reisenauer system too, but for the glider, I needed, of course, a nose cone, and these nose cones are vented. So the point of the biggest pressure, air pressure, is of course the nose, and these nose cones are the main point of impact when you do something wrong. And so you want to have them in aluminum, of course, or aluminium.
Actually, they're quite nice. I got one of those on my Excalibur, and it's got the offset blade pattern as well. Which is nice. Because
offset is pretty nice because the blades are folding more nicely than
the body.
and than the non-offset ones. And this one is actually D-Power. A Reisenauer is around 60 euros, just the spinner and the aluminium cap. And D-Power is from the same quality. It's, don't know if I have a screwdriver here right now. Just open this one. These are pretty beefy. And So the value for money is pretty good, because this whole spinner thing costs about 28 to 30 euros. So it's about half. And that's where I discovered D-Power. And I think D-Power is just a trademark. So yeah, you see this is pretty beefy, this thing. D-Power is just a trademark. When the guy with the rubber amplitude, don't know if you remember that one, this black and green hotline glider, was describing his plane on the group, he showed a few parts, and I actually recognized those parts, because they are made exactly like this one. This is an old Staufenbiel, and D-Power has the exact same building quality. So I think there is a Chinese manufacturer that does D-Power, does Staufenbiel, and also does the new rubber models, because it's not only the way they are made, it's also in the details. If you look at this is the vertical stabilizer, and the control linkage is actually exactly inside here, so you cannot see anything about it. And the way that the rudder is made at most of the D-Power and rubber gliders is exactly the same, and it's exactly the same measurements, exactly the same internals. So I suppose it's the same manufacturer, and I think D-Power just buys Chinese parts, rebrands them, but I think I haven't encountered anything that wasn't good quality. So I'm pretty convinced that D-Power is a good brand. You can use them.
I'm also curious. Recently, I put a post on that I completed all my setup that I planned for the XUAV clouds, and I talked with Henrik about the servos, and he found and recommended me these Votic 9495 servos. I put it in the chat here in Skype and also in the YouTube chat. So he has not tested them, but I was impressed that they cost below 20 euros after Henrik has recommended that to me.
Oh my gosh!
But yeah, I'm really curious how they work.
Actually, my favorite servo is it's a KST DS215 MG. They are around 35 euros, same size. But they are not as strong as these. They have 3.7 kilograms of torque, but they are the fastest things you can actually buy. They are high voltage on 8.4 volts. They have 60 degrees in 0.05 seconds, which is about double as fast as the faster servos you can buy, and about 3 times as fast as those normal stock servos you get with P&P kits. And the Votex look exactly the same. They have nearly the same specs. They have nearly the same way the body is made. And I have the feeling that these are from the exact same factory as the KST 215s are, and I'm a little curious about them. I ordered 4 of them for the NanoDrag project.
So Henrik, how much is a typical plane you're putting together cost by the time you're done with it?
I do not calculate that.
That's a dangerous thing to calculate, Steve.
I do not calculate that, because
600, maybe 400 euros, 500 euros, something like that.
You have seen my XUAV cloud that was at 640 euros already, and that are not the most expensive components in there.
You know, because
that's a budget build compared to what you can spend on a plane. It's
absolutely.
Actually,
I think you can add a 0 if you want.
actually. But I find servos are the most underrated parts in FPV. It's absolutely depending on the origin the operator or the pilot comes from. If you have flown LOS planes in a club or something before, and you're telling people at a club meeting that you have servos in your plane that cost 20 euros, they laugh at you. Because all those scale glider guys with these 4 or 5 meter gliders, they have servos in them that costs 150 each. And if you look at what Yeti has to offer, all of them fly Yeti radios, which is 2,500 euro just the radio, plus 250 a receiver and 250 per servo. We are still pretty much on a budget with our horizon we have here. And all the guys that come from quad flying, from the standard FPV quad flying, they all think, okay, a servo is a servo. It has 3 cables on it, and it moves in one direction, and then it moves in the other direction. So why should I use anything else?
And there's
the problem is with servos. It's the most important thing actually on a plane, because a plane only stays in the air if the control surfaces move the way you want them to move. And that's why I personally don't make any compromises about servos. I'd rather use a cheap motor than a cheap servo.
Completely agree.
Yeah, there's also one important point, especially for us FPV pilots, when better servos get more important, because just to come back to INAV 3.0 update with the new PIDFF controller, if you want to use a very high P gain and a very high D gain to have a very strong wind gust or turbulence stabilization,
yeah, you're going to need really fast servos.
You need fast servos, and the faster your servos are, the higher you can go with the P gain, and the better the stabilization is at the end, because the plane or INAV can just react way faster than it's able with cheap servos.
Yeah,
so yes, that's.
You also have to keep in mind that you have to have the precision. If you have a servo, an analog servo, we always have the discussion, the analog servos versus digital servos. And honestly, most digital servos are analog servos in disguise. They still have a potential meter inside for positioning, but the signal calculation is done digital. So it's mainly an analog servo with a digital IC in it. But the main thing they have as an advantage over an analog servo is the fact that the positioning is much more precise. And if you fly LOS, it doesn't matter anywhere, because you won't be able to control the plane that precise that the positioning advantage a digital servo has above an analog servo actually comes into effect. So, but if you are flying with a very precise and very well-tuned flight controller, and you have the FPV feed with the direct input of the plane's orientation, etc., a good servo precision and a good re-movement into the zero position is quite interesting, because the flight controller doesn't have to overcompensate or to compensate the slighter imprecisions the servo has. So the least amount the least amount of money you have to spend on a digital servo is somewhere in the 10 euro range, and that's not that much more than a cheap analog servo. So why use analog servos?
That reminds me on the dolphining story that Andrew Newton had with his other boat? Crosswind Mini. Yeah, with the Crosswind Mini. So he had not the cheapest servos in there, but yeah, standard digital servos, as you say, digital controlled, but analog position reading. And paired with a 2-stiff hinge on the elevator, it was double centering. So every time the flight controller went back to center, it was like slightly up or slightly down. And that was the main reason for his dolphining issue and why he was never able to fix that. And a good digital servo that has a very strong and precise center position would completely overcome that, even if you have a stiff hinge.
Yeah, and if you want to have the completely digital, you need a servo with a hull sensor in it, like the new exact servos from FSky. I confess I have thought about buying FSky stuff.
You can't admit wanting to buy an FSky product, Henrik.
Yeah.
What's this going to do to your reputation?
Because they are actually on paper they look pretty good. On paper, I haven't tested one yet, but on paper they look pretty good. And if you have a digital positioning by a hall sensor, it's the best thing you can have. And then if you then also have a brushless motor in it, you get fully digital. You have very precise positioning. When we were talking about a servo test rig, Darren, I think you remember that. I also proposed to you to mount a laser pointer on a servo arm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. To test the position actually, and with a hall sensor servo, this laser pointer can be 5 meters on the wall away, and it will always find its position within 1 centimeter or so. And with an analog servo, you will have a variation of at least 10 to 15 centimeters. And that is the problem you have with the dolphining thing you said, Mark, or the overcompensation for the flight controllers.
I once bought some of these Metal Gear Tower Pro servos. Yes, but not the blue ones. But I think they had a black housing. I think I still have one or two of them.
Yes, yeah.
This black transparent housing. And,
yeah, I have them too here.
Yeah, and I think I bought 5 of them. One was defect out of box, but that's another story. One was jittering around the center point all the time. And the third one had some bad tolerances on the gears, so it was in this specific area around the center point. It was a little bit too tight, and every time I centered it, it moved quickly and then slowly to the center, like it pressed afterwards. And it was and I didn't realize that at the beginning, so I put it into a plane and I tried to fly it. It was a nightmare. So yeah, that's exactly that point. It was, I think it is a digital servo with digital control.
That's analog.
Was
analog.
it analog?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, is analog. Yeah.
Okay, but that's exactly
they
the
are
point.
€2.
Yeah. But that was the last time I bought any cheap servo. So at least now, when I get a new servo, then it's at least Emax ES08 or so.
Don't buy Emax.
Hey, they work. I have 2 planes with them, and they just work, and they are good. They are okay. at least for cheap planes, I use them. Yeah. Use
JX. Use the JX I sent you. They are bulletproof.
Votic, you mean?
No, the JX. You were talking about your parachute system.
Yeah, the smaller ones, the 4.5 gram.
You were smiling about the JX. Yes. It's the PD11 something, isn't it?
I just got a few JX servos, and for the price, they're really good.
I have never had one bad JX servo.
I want to be part of the party as well.
Yeah, I haven't got the box. I'll pretend I'm holding one. There we go.
Yeah, I discovered JX when I looked for a servo for my 110 crawler, and they had a servo that can pull 76 kilograms and has an independent power supply, and that one was abused now for a few hours. It is actually in the truck. I had, yeah.
There we
It
go.
is
I
actually
got
in the
one. I
truck. I
swear.
posted in the group.
So we can all agree
Yeah.
on JX. We just need to agree on Free Sky. We're
Okay,
good,
guys,
right?
I'm the outsider now. I have none.
Yeah, I've got these for my moldy, actually. Little thin.
Yeah, I'm putting these on a carbon DLG. So yeah.
The reason why Henrik recommended me that one, at least one of them, is for the clouds. I want to have a parachute opening system with a servo, and because
Guys, we need to get a screenshot with all of us holding our JX.
okay, yeah, do that. Put that all up, and I will make a screenshot.
JX. Send us free stuff, please.
These are cool.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, now everyone puts one up, and I will make a screenshot.
Double party. Yeah.
You'll actually like this. The Dragon 2 actually comes with JX servos.
Oh, does it?
They're plastic geared, unfortunately, but it comes with JX servos. And
Wait, this doesn't have a label on it. I'm bummed. Came out of the box with no label.
What I find pretty cool about these, they are metal geared, yeah, but nobody actually thinks about metal gears fully, because what do metal gears do? They are more stable, more strong than plastic gears.
Yes.
But if the rods where the gears are on are actually suspended in plastic, the metal gear is worth nothing, because as soon as you use the servo and the rod is able to move inside the plastic, it will open the hole where it sits in a little, and you develop slop. So there is actually no point in having metal gears in a plastic servo body, except for these ones, because they have metal bushings for the rods, and they cost 12 euros or something, which is a brilliant bang for the buck. They are 8 kilograms on 7.4 volts, and that's brilliant.
Do you know if all the JX servos have metal bushings?
Sorry?
Do you know if all the JX servos have metal bushings for the rods?
No. The 12 millimeter servos don't have metal bushings.
I see.
Just the glider iterations I have here in my hands have those metal bushings.
So
at least the ones I have.
Henrik, now I have to ask you again. Would you say I should go to the JX servos completely for the clouds, or should I try the Votic?
Depends on what you want with it.
I mean, the reason why I looked for that JX servo is the Votic I will run at 7.4 volts, and the JX servo was actually the smallest one Henrik knew of that also can run 7.4 volts. So I don't need an extra power supply. That was the main reason for it.
But the Votics look really, really good, and I haven't tested one yet, and I ordered 4 of them for the Nano Drug project, and they will arrive in a few days, I hope. And then the first thing I'll do is get one apart and look how they got the gearings lubricated and how the rods are suspended, and then I'll try to get an idea of how the positioning is, and if all that looks good. Yeah, I definitely worth to buy. They are 20 grams, full metal body, and they are pretty fast on 0.06 seconds. It's absolutely fast, and for the price, why not?
Sounds good.
I'm just sitting here thinking, like, I have to go through all my planes, rip out all those plastic, all these, like, MG90S servos out and put in all the good stuff now. You just cost me hundreds and hundreds of dollars just talking to you, so thank you so much.
Yeah, honestly, I have to admit, I like to over-engineer stuff, and that's I had to learn that it's pretty German.
Yes.
You don't say.
over-engineer stuff to the point where it's actually not practical anymore. But to be honest, none of my planes actually survived that long that the quality of the parts I bought for them came actually into effect in the long term. So,
speaking of a plane that's going to last a long time, you can spend a few minutes talking about your Drac, your love for Dracs.
Yeah, I fell in love with them at some point in time. I saw a video in, I think it was 2017 or something, when I was building my first FPV wing, and I always liked the design, and it reminded me of my nerdy spaceship fandom, and I always liked the design, and then I found one on FPV24. It's a German online shop. And they were super cheap. They were on sale for $200, the complete set. But I didn't pull the trigger because I was dumb at that time. I should have bought 10 or 20 of them for that price, because I could have made a fortune on that. Yeah, I haven't thought about it for quite some time, and then I found one in one of the forums. Was completely unbuilt for $300, and I pulled the trigger, and then I got a big truck. Then Josh, the manic Josh, started with his mental speed builds, and if somebody says to me, big voltage, big current, big speed, and everything is totally crazy, I'm completely sold every time. And then I got a mini Drac for illegal little money, and then Nikolai came and said, I want to order directly from Chris an Drac. Do you want to join me? And I said, yeah, of course. Now I have all three, and all three are still in the box. It's still a kit, nothing done to them. Just got the parts together. That's my main problem. I have a few kits here unbuilt. I have a few projects here unfinished. Simply no time for all the projects. That's the problem. That's the main thing.
Henrik, speaking of speed, you should show us something.
You mean the
250G,
the Frankendart train wreck?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm currently bodging around on my Dart 250. Well, the whole thing is pretty cool on the first look, I have to say. And when I looked the second and the third and the fourth time on it, I simply hated a few details on it. And I started with making the wings flat. I also tried to paint them. That's why they look like that. I took the wrong paint. I simply cut out the complete servo mount, and you can see it here. The wing is completely flat. And what I did is put an ABS tube in it that runs the way the servo cable. It's always the wrong side around. Where the servo cable would run. And I just filled up the place where the servo would sit, and had some lightweight putty on it. The putty sticks, the paint sticks on the putty, but not on the EPP. I have to find some other paint for it. And here comes out a Bowden cable that actually goes into the fuselage. And you can see here the base plate for the flight controller, and behind there will be the two servos. inside the fuselage actually. And the whole effect is that you have a completely flat wing. I'll find you a video for the proof of concept. I just disassembled everything to paint it. And then I found out that I hated the rear end of the plane too, because I think the dart is well known, so I don't have to describe how the rear end looks.
The
Normally,
famous brick wall.
Yeah, my brick wall expression, I always say. I just started with sanding down everything, and sanding down looks awful. Then I painted it with foam armor and sanded everything down again. So the underside is now rather smooth, but the upper side I just cut. I just cut away everything. So where I put my finger is exactly the width of the motor bell. So I have actually more or less nothing in front of the propeller. So it should be, yeah, the same effect as on the AR wing. It should be a lot quieter, and it should, of course, make a lot better use of the prop thrust actually. So this thing might break 200 kilometers easy. I hope. Mark, actually, Mark is the reason why I cut the back here, because he had his performance start. He's getting it right now. He had his performance start with the exact same motor, cell voltage, and prop setup I intended to use. I think we...
Say something, Mark. We can't see it.
Yeah, I can switch to my camera, so everyone is seeing it in the stream right now. So yeah.
It's a T-Motor F1507, 3,800 kV, I think.
Yep.
Jeez.
And he managed to do 100 miles per hour. And that was pretty disappointing for me, because I used eCalc for the first testing around, and eCalc said it would be 240 kilometers per hour, which is somewhere north of 140, 150 miles per hour. And I was pretty disappointed, and I tried to figure out why.
I have to say at this point, when I got the 160, that was the fastest speed yet. I used the stock 3x5x3 prop that came with the plane, and the 3-inch prop is hidden basically 30%. 30% of the prop area is hidden behind the fuselage, so it's in the shadow here. And the next thing is, for this high KV, the pitch is just too much. So the pitch speed in theory with the RPM was at close to 400 kilometers per hour. So the prop was basically permanently in a stall, especially if it hits the turbulences from the airframe. So now I decided to go with a little bit less pitch and a 4-inch prop. And as you can see, most of the prop is now looking past the fuselage all the time. And I have some nylon standoffs on here right now. I think it's 10 millimeters, if I remember correctly, to get it a little bit further back. But I've not flown it yet with that prop. I used a cut down 5x4-inch prop, and I made a 4x4 out of it, 4x4 bullnose. But that prop was total crap. It was flexing all the time. It was just making noise, but no thrust. And yeah, I need to try with that setup. And then I will try again just to look how much impact the back of the fuselage makes with and without standoffs, and see how big the difference will be. I hope I can fly it the next weekend. And this is also the one I want to test INAV 3.0 on.
Just to add, if you're flying at 160 kilometers an hour with a 400 kilometer per hour pitch speed, the prop definitely wouldn't have been stalled, but it would have still been working much less efficient than it should have been. But
so this is
just correcting, making sure the terminologies.
Yeah, sure. Look, thanks. This is, by the way, a 4x4.3 3-blade prop. So it's still pretty high pitch for that RPM. And I'm running that on 4S, so yeah.
Yeah, that is a very high pitch for that plane at that high RPM.
You have to think of a prop like a gearbox. If just simple comparison, get your car on the road and drive it at full speed, and then add a roof rack to it, and you won't reach full speed mainly in the last gear, but you have to shift one down, and then you'll see you'll accelerate further. And your whole airframe might just be not aerodynamically efficient enough to run the prop with a higher pitch. So going down with pitch with an airframe that isn't that aero might be actually the right decision. And that's why I made those modifications to it, because I wanted to keep the airframe as sleek and as slippery as possible. And I now also found the proof of concept for the ailerons. I think I can share it right here. This one. Can you see it?
I can.
Wait a second. I have to share my screen. Give me a second. For the stream. Here we go. Yeah.
Okay, it's you can see it. It's actually actuated through the wing. So the whole thing is completely aero. I will then
That's
also
really cool.
cover the hinge gap on top, so we won't have any excess drag, because a hinge gap on top is worse than a hinge gap below the wing. But I wanted to keep it above because of the stability of the whole thing. And in the back you see a hole through the wing. That's the place where the VTX antenna will go. It's also a side feed antenna from 2RC, and it happens to be exactly the same height as the wing is thick on that position, so it will completely flush. And the RX antenna will be in a recess in a vertical stabilizer. So actually the whole plane will have no excess appendixes on it. So I might get away with a higher pitch than the one Mark uses. But well, I have to have 1 or 2 or 3 completely free days to actually finish the build. But yeah, if wife always finds new tasks around the house, I think this will take a few additional weeks to actually complete the thing.
What are you going to cover the hinge gap with? Just hinge covering tape?
No, it's you can do it 2 ways.
Okay.
I'll just try to find
Lenderms
stuff I have here.
No, so the tape I was on about, Steve, is like a tape that's half tape, but then the other half is like a plastic strip.
That's the one you can buy ready-made. But these things are pretty expensive. You can buy them completely flat, so then you pay around 10 to 15 euros per 5 meter. But I think that's hilariously costly. But there are also iterations by Graupner, by old Graupner, for 30 euros per 3 meter, and the part of the tape that is non-sticky is actually bent, so it's even more aero than that. So if the aileron goes up and the flat tape would stick out a bit, it is actually bent, so there is a smooth covering. but you can easily make it yourself if you have. Yeah, that's the one I used.
That's what I was on about, Steve.
Yeah, that's exactly the one I used on the AR wing here.
I see.
That's the one I used on the AR wing.
Yeah.
Exactly the one.
I think you can also heat it up a little bit before you apply it and bend it into a downward shape.
Yeah.
Because the problem is if you go to full stick forward and the control surface goes down, you could get a gap otherwise between the plastic strip and the elevon, right?
Not really. If you're a little careful with positioning.
Okay.
It's dependent on pressure. I have no problems with this one actually, and it's the small one, and the you see it's moving pretty good.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Now, if you go in that direction, it seems to stand up a little bit. It seems to have to get down.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's why Graupner sells the bent ones. And this will also look like if you do the tape yourself. You can just fold over a third of the tape of standard tape, and then you have 50% sticky and 50% non-sticky. So that's the cheap type to do it.
Okay, Steve, I would say at this point we should think of show end.
Everybody, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you, Henrik, for sharing your thoughts about. We didn't get to like half of what Henrik could get into, so we'll have to have you back at some point, and we can talk about tape and servo and hinges and all that good stuff. I mean, hinges is it's its own topic. I can go on for hours. But I do thank Mark for having us. Darren, thank you so much. And Luke, as always, thanks for being here. Luke's talking more. I appreciate that. He's cleaning up his room.
What's that about my room?
I'm just glad your room's cleaned up. It's looking better.
Oh, I see. Is this cleaned up? Is it really?
Well, you must have like another room.
I didn't move my camera.
Hashtag 4 reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like I'm curious to hear when they start bringing the women over. How, when I start seeing pictures like flowers and beaches and sunsets in the background and the planes disappear. I know you have a girlfriend.
I do have. Where are they? There. Yeah, those are 2 Dr. Zeus quotes. Very inspirational. Very cool. See,
Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Zeus. Yeah. Today you are you. That is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. Very cool quote. That's what all the ladies like to see.
All the places you will go. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Luke. Well, thank you so much. You're regressing back to your childhood room here. We gotta get you a bachelor pad at some point. We gotta get you married off. When this whole COVID thing's over. So thanks so much, guys, for being here. And